What are Ferocious Lupa's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. If there's one thing that we can be 100% sure of, it's that Lupa is going to be the absolute queen of fusion teams. She's gonna offer a whole lot of juicy qualities to the fusion archetype. If you head to the Crossing Stars menu in-game, you can actually have a look at all of the more specific qualities that she's capable of providing. There's a pretty chunky amount of good stuff here. For example, the freaking Fusion Res Shred. Res Shred is no joke, and can be a seriously strong A-tier damage output. And it's not like she only dishes out a small amount. No, not by any means. She's out here providing up to 15% Fusion Res Shred if every teammate present is of that particular element. You get 3% extra for every fusion teammate that's in your team, so even if you're only playing double fusion, that's a nifty 6%, which isn't as impressive as 15%, but because Res Shred is just that good, it's still a nice performance increase to have around. Her Resonance Liberation is capable of offering some nice attack percent buffs too, and you can get a ton of fusion damage bonus out of her kit as well, both out of her Liberation and her Outro skill. That same Outro skill also provides basic percent buffing, which is excellent for a certain much beloved pirate lad. So it's very clear that Lupa is going to be the premier pull for anybody that's interested in fusion-based teams. She has benefits that only develop further with the more fusions that you pair her with. Also, even if you don't have both Brant, Wuthering Waves, and Changli, only having one of them, you can still very much make use of Lupa with those characters individually. I do think that Brant Lupa will be stronger than Changli Lupa, primarily because Brant will appreciate the Wolf Warrior's basic percent buffing more than the lovely Phoenix Lady, but with that being said, both are going to be sublime synergies for sure, and if you're super interested in completing your fusion team, then perhaps Lupa may be the one for you. With that being said, I'd like to delve a little more into how good she's going to be for triple fusion. It's clear that Kuro wants you to play a team of Changli, Brant, and Lupa all in one. With the Wolf Warrior outroing into the Pirate, with the Pirate outroing into Changli, then repeating the cycle all over again. It's going to cause one full synonymous cycle that's going to run extremely smoothly. It also means that you're easily able to free up your Shorekeeper if you do pull for her, since she's most likely going to become the brand new best installed third slot teammate for fusion teams. I can also see these teams being an absolute goldmine when it comes to skill expression. In fact, I feel like we've achieved the best of both worlds in this case. You'll likely be able to play a very smooth rotation with this team, swapping from one fusion user to the next, without having to perform any complicated quick swaps or cancels, but considering how Changli is a unit that's able to work very nicely with quick swap, I would not be surprised if some crazy quick swap rotations were discovered shortly after Lupa's release with a team consisting of these three. It's also likely that you'll be able to quick swap when using her with even just one of either Brant or Changli, but most likely the Phoenix Lady, since she's more quick swap friendly. The Pirate Lad is still capable of doing so of course, but it's not as smooth with him. Regardless, it's clear to me that she is the final piece of the fusion puzzle. This is going to complete the Changli saga, if you will, when it comes to the Phoenix Lady's team building. So to all my fellow enjoyers of the Phoenix Lady, consider Lupa, since she's going to provide you with the strongest possible experience when it comes to playing fusion teams. She's a very specialized unit, but one that's definitely great at her job. However, she's going to be absolutely sublime for DPS Brant Wuthering Waves as well. This Wolfish Warrior offers fusion percent and basic percent on outro, meaning that if you play these two in one team, you're going to be able to cook hard. Brant's damage is going to benefit very nicely from all of this. If you main the Pirate Lad specifically, and rely on him to do the majority of your team's damage, then you'll find Lupa to be very useful to you. You're going to be able to free up your Sanhua if you are relying on her basic percent buffing to beef up your Brant. So generally, for enjoyers of the Pirate Fella, this fearsome Warrior Lady is going to be one heck of a pull for you. I'm mostly targeting people who quite literally play Brant as a main DPS with this point, as in the people who go into TOA with a team like Brant, Sanhua, Shorekeeper, or Arena, and clear. Simps, essentially. You'll really enjoy this character's presence if you're one such person, because not only does she provide a ton of stuff that he really likes, but freeing up Sanhua is a very valuable thing to do at this point, honestly. We don't get 4-star characters that often in Wuthering Waves, and Sanhua is an extremely good one at that. Not to mention that she's literally free. She's a scarce resource, and she's only continuing to prove over time how freaking busted she is. I mean, shoot! Just consider recent events of Cardathea. No Shakona? Then who exactly acts as your next port of call? Sanhua, my guy. The gosh darn bodyguard of the Jinzhou Magistrate strikes once again, being one of the most useful characters ever. Granted, freeing her up on its own isn't enough to justify being a pullable unit. Roshia sucks value-wise regardless of her ability to free up Sanhua. Lupa's able to do that, but effectively, because what she offers to the Fusion Gang is genuinely meaningful. It's also nice that Lupa has basic percent buffing in her outro. Of course, a lot of her value is jam-packed of fusion-based goodies. That's clearly the core selling point of the unit, no doubt about that. However, it's always nice to have a more broad quality to your kit. It means that she's going to have some future usability outside of fusion teams. Now I want to make something very, very clear here. I am not encouraging that you pull for Lupa, as she may potentially work with basic attack-based units in the future. That is an incredibly silly idea. No, not at all. What I am trying to do is say that if you end up pulling her for her other qualities, a nice side bonus is that you're able to use her as a substitute for other basic percent buffers when you might need them in the future. I mean, shoot, I say in the future, but the point that I made in regards to her being good for DPS Brant kind of already proves my point. Think about it like this. For Hypercarry Carlotta, Joja is the definitive best in slot. Nobody is denying that. However, you're still able to effectively utilize Cantarella. It's unlikely that anybody would ever directly pull for the Jellyfish Lady in hopes of improving their Carlotta specifically. However, regardless of intent, the fact of the matter is that you've got yourself a lovely alternative to Joja now, should the situation call for it. I'm envisioning something similar with Lupa and basic attackers here. Of course, in Cantarella's case, it's a little different, because she hasn't really received her best in slot DPS partner yet. She does indeed have synergies, and she's actually a very powerful Jinchi teammate, but the point does stand that we don't have her de facto best in slot synergy where she really stands out yet. Whereas with Lupa, she's gonna have a perfect team or perfect teammates to play with on launch, and you will probably never use Lupa in teams outside of fusion ones, if you do own any of the other fusion units. But it means that if you pick her up now while waiting for the reruns of those other units, you'll still be able to use her with other basic percent appreciators. We don't have as many of those as say skill percent appreciators at the moment, so this won't be something that comes into action immediately, but it'll be nicer over time. This is a cool bonus incentive if anything. Consider a unit like Shakona for a moment. The Renacetan Bard is really strong, no denying that. However, her outro skill is extremely specific to erosion users, so nobody other than erosion DPSs are ever going to appreciate her outro. It's better to have a broader buff in your kit, such as basic percent. She'll also be good for individuals with skill issue, since she's going to be able to help you recover from staggers quickly. This is going to be pretty nice if you're fighting some harder bosses. It's also a nice benefit when you consider that Lupa plays with the Fusion Gang. Changli is generally regarded as one of the harder characters to play in this game, and Brant's able to get interrupted very easily, we'll say. So with that being said, she'll be able to offer a nice bit of quality of life. Once again, much like the basic percent buffing, this isn't some major deciding selling point that should totally dictate whether you pull for her or not, but it's still something pretty cool that Crow decided to slide into your kit. And I think it's pretty welcome. Lupa's gonna be capable of dealing personal damage as well. Her kit isn't just centered around buffing, she's able to put in her own deal of performance as well. This means that in a triple fusion team, you're getting damage out of 3 different sources. This sounds pretty wild to me. She also reminds me of Brant in the sense, but she's able to do so many different things, and do them all well. Also, unlike the goofy fella, she doesn't scale on ER percent super heavily, and doesn't demand an oddly specific build, which would make her Echoes a nightmare to build. So she's powerful and accessible, all at the same time. Utterly nuts. I'm not sure if DPSing her is going to be effective in all honesty. DPS Changli on her own is kind of cope to be honest, and the best way to play that is by on-fielding her after receiving Brant's outro skill buff, in which the team actually does end up feeling pretty good, but basically only under that circumstance. And I do think that DPS Brant feels pretty decent to play, but only if you have the guy's signature weapon, and even then, you could instead just play him as a second salt teammate in another team, since he's pretty versatile, especially considering his ability to offer skill percent on outro. So my guess is that it will probably be pretty cope, but function just fine. We'll have to actually wait until Lupa officially releases, until we're able to try that out for ourselves, but her personal damage is still going to be a really nice additional quality when you consider how chaotically awesome it's going to make triple fusion teams. Lupa's gotta be one of the most well-balanced characters that Kuro has made in recent times, because the only flaw that I can genuinely think of with her, aside from the obvious, will most likely really want her signature, is that she's super tied to the Fusion Gang. If you don't have at least Brant or Changli, she's not gonna feel anywhere near as strong, because so much of her value is inherently tied to playing with other Fusion teammates. As I stated earlier, you're still able to use her as a general buffer for basic percent, if you're willing to sacrifice all of her fusion-based benefits. I just think it's a shame to do so, because said benefits that she offers are no small joke. It's not so much that she's bricked as a generalist, it's just that you're missing out on so much of her max potential because she's just that well balanced around fusions. But honestly, it's pretty clear that she's a more niche unit. You want to get her if you care about that particular element, but otherwise, very easily skippable. I'm personally a very big fan of how Lupa's been balanced. I don't think that her kit is unfair in any regard. I'm gonna be honest, I do actually feel like she is a much more well-made unit than Cardathea if we're talking strictly in terms of game balance. I'm not a game designer, nor do I claim to have any knowledge on the matter, but just from my personal perspective, I do think it's cool how you're either able to play her in triple fusion, or just mix and match her between the fusion folks as you wish, while still having some generalist qualities to her. She's not an utter brick if you don't have the full premium team, while still being perfectly skippable if you're not interested, because Brant Changli feels like a perfectly competent duo already. Definitely a great pull if you want what she offers, otherwise an easy pass. But I do genuinely feel like Kuro cooked her kit here. If you care about fusions, I really would look into her. I think she provides a whole lot. But once again, if you're not interested in her, then your fusions are still able to exist very comfortably on their own. I feel like the fusion characters are the most well-balanced class of characters in all of Wuthering Waves. How about yourself? Does Lupa impress you, or are you not too amused? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I have a silly second channel where I just kind of talk about whatever in regards to gacha games. Head on over and check that out if it's something that you're interested in. Hopefully this video was able to tell you Lupa's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out, and Kuro really let the dogs out with this one.